Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages. Like, share, and subscribe. This podcast is sponsored by the following. Remington, made with pride in the USA. Iconic American impact. Wenig custom gun stocks. Head on down for your custom fitting. Remember, winners shoot Wenig. Shot Tracker, like having a coach on your barrel. For more info, go to takeaimtech.com. Life is too short to miss. RM Shooting Clinics, helping shooters from coast to coast. Have Ricky take your game to the next level. Zach Nanini at Northwestern Mutual. Trusted advice from someone you know. We believe in putting people first. Other supporters for Trap Talk. The Nevada State Trapshooting Association. Don't miss their 75th annual state shoot this October in Las Vegas. The NSTA puts on some great shoots, and they're going big for this year's state. Go to nvtrap.com to check out their program and all other shoots as well. Welcome to another episode of Trap Talk. I'm Zach Nanini, and I'm here with our co-host, Richard Marshall Jr. Today, we have a real special episode. One of the great all-time shooters, Jimmy Heller, is here with us today. He's an awesome guy and a longtime friend of ours. So welcome to the show, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Ricky, could you please introduce Jimmy? I know he doesn't need much introduction, but give his long list of accolades.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Welcome to the show, Jimmy. So we got Jimmy Heller. I call him J-Bone. I've called him that for a long time. He hears me yelled at across the way when I see him. So, but Jimmy's been shooting since 1968. He's got 711. You hear me correct? 711,000 registered targets in the ATA. Because he just shot 900 last week at the Gold West Grand to get that 711. But Jimmy's a 9-time All-American, one time as a junior, back, years and years ago. He's a 13-time state champion in California. He's got all 5 championships, and I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Jimmy, you, Sean Hawley, Dan Vanias, and is it Ron Alcariza?
Yes.
Dave
so those are the only 4.
Dave,
Dave.
Yeah.
Oh, yep, and Dave.
Dave, he starts the next 100 years, but we were the first 400 years.
So, and Jimmy's got 26 200s in singles, 2400s from the 27. He's got 119 hundreds in doubles. And also, Jimmy was on the California State team from 1980 to 2021. But just so everybody knows, in handicap, Jimmy has registered 367,350, and that's not including last week according to the ATA site. But he's got a cumulative average over that of a 92.43. So that's pretty impressive for that many handicap cards. I know Zach hasn't even shot, a third of that total in all disciplines combined. But, so welcome to the show, Jimmy. We'll talk a little bit about Jimmy's history in shooting, and he is in the ATA Hall of Fame also.
ATA Hall of Fame, California Hall of Fame, pretty much every Hall of Fame, and now working on Arizona because you moved residency, right?
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. So Jimmy, to start, a lot of things to talk with you about today, but a brief synopsis on what got you into trap shooting and how you started for the listeners.
We lived on a wash in Little Rock, California, where I grew up, and my dad set up a little 5-station sporting clay segment with the pole, the hand throwers and stuff like that. And he'd bring a bunch of friends out right before dove season, and we'd shoot a little bit. He did a little course. When I was 12, I ran the first 25 out of 25 on that little course. And my aunt and uncle ran Apple Valley Gun Club. So they invited us down to Redlands to try shooting some real trap, I guess, at that time, compared to what we were shooting. And we took our side-by-sides and our hunting vests and went down there and shot on a Sunday. Well, the following Wednesday, my parents, my mom and dad, went down to LA and bought 4 870s, All right, guys. Bring back a lot of memories. Yeah.
It's good times.
Yeah. It's hard. I've lost both my parents and my brother in the past, so it's kind of what's left. So, but anyway, we started shooting. We went to Reno for the PITA the Grand Pacific in 1969, and that was the year and I shoot that Orlick broke the 400 in the PITA, and my brother won subshoot. Sorry, me, I'm pissed off. My brother won sub junior on Sunday, and I won junior.
That's an amazing memory, Jimmy.
And it's been Trapshooting people expect my life. Sorry, but it really God, man.
It's all right. Hey,
Nice.
it happens. It's been your whole life, and
You know,
it's
I know.
tough, you know.
tough,
But
you know,
you know,
bring back memories, stuff like that. So how you grew up shooting, stuff like that. So,
Well,
but and
you
then
know how passionate you are, Jimmy.
so you know, it was part of our life, my life, still is part of my life. So, but from there it just kind of blossomed. You know, and we shot. My brother and I worked in the pear and peach orchards in the summertime. Pooled our money, and we bought a Charles Daly over and under for doubles. So we had a squad apart from that, you know.
yeah.
Meanwhile, we're shooting our 870s at singles and handicap. And then the following year did the same thing, bought another one. So yeah, it is. I had mine, stuff like that. And then I ended up shooting that on everything. Singles, handicap, and doubles. 80, when did I buy my 87? 87, I bought my MX3 combo set from Benias when they come out with those. And I basically, no, let's see, go back up a little bit because I shot the daily till it started opening up when you'd shoot it. And I went and bought a Remington 3200 and Perazzi Comp 1. And I shot those for like 4 or 5 years. And then I bought my MX3 combo set from Benias.
And once you got that 3, Jimmy, is that when all your success started happening, or were you winning stuff and shooting pretty good up into that?
Up until, you know, I had couple hundred straights with the Comp 1, you know, winning a little bit, but I didn't start really shooting big time until about when I got that MX3, you know, started shooting a lot. It was where Terry Billy, Rick Schuler, and myself all bought those MX3 combos. And within a month of each one of us getting that combo set, we each had 100 from the 27.
Well, those guns were shooting pretty good back then.
Good back then, yep.
You were shooting those soft West Coast targets. Is that what you got?
Yeah. They were pretty soft. You know, like,
that's awesome, Jimmy. And you know, you've been doing this your whole life, and you know, you picked all that up like a second. And when we asked you about your accolades to figure out where you were, I mean, you just had everything off the top of your head, and you track it, and you've got a sheet if I'm not wrong, right? Let's see your sheet.
Yes.
So
one for singles, handicap, and then I got 3 or 4 for doubles that all got the where and dates.
You've had that since how many years have you started that?
Since when did I do that? 79.
That book's older than you, Zach.
Yeah, a lot older than me. I was born in 91. So
I was 5.
They're the listeners that are not watching us on YouTube. You know, Jimmy's got this old pad portfolio that he's had since 79, and it's got every single 100, 200, and 100 doubles in it, and it's hundreds from the 27, and the dates, the gun clubs, the stock he used, the guns he used. And what I know about Jimmy is he watches everything. He remembers everything. He's like a tack, and he's got a good document record of where he's at. So, you know, that kind of leads me into my next question, Jimmy.
I had my wife, every time I won something,
saved it.
This is only up to 93. Look how
That's
thick it
pretty
is.
thick right
Now,
there.
So Jimmy, you got that thick book of awards. I want to know, how thick is your lens ordering sheets for your prescription
Oh.
shooting glasses?
Oh, I wish I had the picture of all my lenses.
I used to kid, for the listeners out there, I used to kid Jimmy to shoot him like he's got the go-go gadget lenses, and it'd like unfold and have 100 lenses. But Jimmy's got some eye issues, and so he changes lenses frequently.
Yeah, a lot. Well, I had both cataracts replaced in the last 2 years. Then I went equal dominance. Well, I don't have a dominant eye, so I go off the left sometimes and the right sometimes. And if anybody knows what prism is, I need 12 diopters of prism to put them together, like 6 on each side. And
And
that's
that's a lot.
that's a lot, you know.
That's a
and then
a
when
lot.
then when my eyes go independent, well, that eye tells me where I'm looking, which is the right one moves it far left and the left one moves it far right. That's sun crossing my eyes, but yet when they're independent, they're crossed. Like, so it's been a battle for 5 years.
You know,
Well,
you've had a lot go on in the last 5 years, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But for your shooting style, when you bringing it back to the 80s and the 70s, when you were shooting back then, what was your style? Were you a high gun hold point shooter, low on the house? I mean, what were you doing, and what were you working on your way up?
Basically, because of my eye situation, I had opposite stigmatism. I have one that's up high and one that's down low. So I became to look underneath the gun. Always held about level, horizontal level or above.
Yep.
And looked under the gun and more or less trapped it. For even on doubles and singles, everything, I could never come down. I've never seen the top of the gun all them years of shooting that way.
You've always had that stigmatism issue, though. So your whole shooting career had these issues with your eyes, and still were able to break all those huge scores.
Yes.
And so gun up more like a Bonilla style, looking back to the house, and then never allowing the target to beat the plane of the gun. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So, I mean, is that hard to learn? Was that natural for you, or kind of, most people don't do it that way. So, explain what was going on.
I think it was more instinct for me, more to reactionary. There it is, and shoot it rather than try and catch it. I was always out in front of that target, and it was just a matter of like getting to that spot before the target did. And it's just how I kind of learned to adapt to shoot that way,
Now, what's your point of impact, Jimmy?
100%, 100%.
Okay.
But like I say, it's the stigmatism part that I adapted over the years, learning how to shoot that way,
You learn to adapt, as we all did growing up shooting. I mean, you've shot a lot longer than I have, but everybody's different. You just learned and shot a lot. I mean, as everybody can tell. Now, how many practice targets have you shot in your life? Probably
not. I would just go down with a good friend of mine that we shot together for 8 years every weekend somewhere. We go down to Fin and Feather on Wednesdays, and we could shoot maybe 100, 150 targets. That was about it, mainly doubles. You go down there, and with the wind, we always had the wind from the tent behind us, 15 to 25 miles an hour. So we'd go out there and try and shoot them as fast as we can. I mean, didn't care of our score, just pop pow, pop pow. And
you were just wanting to
shoot, and then do a serious round to where now everything's in slow motion a little bit, to where it helped that way, and holding the higher gun made less gun movement with that scenario and stuff like that, rather than trying to chase that first target that quick. And then you got the recovery from the recoil, redirect to go to the second one, so.
Yeah. Well, and I know out west, you guys I know first time I ever came out west to shot years ago, the targets were set a little higher. I was used to shooting, growing up in the Midwest. I mean, we had 20, 30 mile an hour winds all the time. And and, from the south, at your back, and we never saw any face. It was always just the
Well,
back
that
of the
way,
target.
yeah.
So I was like, well, God, why would I hold a high gun? I just always held on the house. And then when I came out west, people are like, oh, you need to raise your gun. I'm like, yeah, I know they're going up. I'll just go up after them. And that's, how I've always adapted is,
Adapted.
yeah, you can go up, you don't have to always just wait on it.
So, yeah. And it's like over the years of shooting, stuff like holding that high gun stuff, like you say, you learn to adapt. Now, for
Yep.
me, on a higher target, it depended. Sometimes I'd even go higher, okay,
Okay.
or come down lower and have more gun movement come up through it, like a normal little bit, But I still, there's a lot of times I held almost to the 3/4 to the peak of the target where I started from consistently. But then I keep going back. That's
More
the
like
eye.
a Rich Bullard hold point where you're at up
Yes.
there in the
Yeah.
clouds. And
Yep.
I think the difference between, me and Ricky and you and Rich is you said something right there. I just picked off little gun movement. So for me,
Yeah.
if the targets get higher, I'm only going more gun movement. I'm going,
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
at the same spot. So, everything I do is a long stroke to the bird. And for you and other shooters that are these high, I mean, there might not be any gun movement or very little
Movement.
gun movement. You're just holding a spot. And if the target comes to you, you're letting off, correct?
Right there. Yes. Correct. Yep.
And it's
And I'm
more
on-
of an instinctual reaction type of shooting where you're always keeping the pellets on top of the bird.
Top of the target. Yep. Because you're not going to break it from shooting underneath it, behind it.
Is there a target that ever eats your lunch, like when they come out really flat, or is there something that would bother you with that technique?
No, just, I mean, through the years of shooting stuff like that, just you're analyzing. I analyze all my breaks, the movement from when I see it to where I break it, fine tuning that little window right there on speed of the gun and everything else. There's times I'll move my hand out 1/4 of an inch on the forearm, or there's been times I go out and hold a barrel. I mean, I got to slow the gun down that much, but that's, certain situations and stuff like that.
So for our listeners that don't know, Jimmy, you're saying the more you move your front hand forward on the forearm, the slower the gun's going to go. And the more you bring your front hand back, the faster the gun's going to go. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
And are there other things that you're doing with your body that'll change gun speed as far as how you're leaning, how you're standing, stuff like that? Or is that pretty consistent?
A little bit like on lower targets. I kind of noticed over the years of shooting lower targets, because you've seen me in the past, Zach. I don't put my gun up as high as my shoulder as I used to, but I used to stand up a little taller and mount the gun higher in my shoulder for a flatter target because it makes it shoot flatter.
Yep. The higher the gun is in the pocket, the flatter the gun relatively shoots, the lower in the gun. And if you watch Dave Kelly shoot when he was in his prime, he would drop that gun so low in his shoulder to create elevation
Right.
with the top of the gun. I mean, he made that gun shoot higher based on where you put it in the shoulder. And a lot of people don't move that, but it's because of the way you're moving the tip of that gun.
Right. Correct. Just little subtle changes,
100%. So, you've shot, I mean, what is it now? 50 years?
Yeah. So, yeah, it'll be 55.
50, 54, 55 years.
5 years. Yeah.
And you've
55,
been
56.
You've been pretty dominant throughout those 50 years, all the way across. Now, I know we've shared with us that you had some health issues, back, what was it, 5-6 years
2011.
ago?
Yeah. 2011, I had colon cancer. They removed my.
And that had to be rough. But I mean, I remember even in that period of time, you were still wanting to be around the range as much as possible.
Well, yeah, I had surgery in August, in July 7th that year, 2011. I remember it was 7/11, and a week and a half after my surgery, after I came home, I had my wife go buy 2 air mattresses, and I put them in the back of the Yukon, and we drove to Santa Maria and shot the 400.
You ain't playing around.
Jimmy not playing. He's
what a shoot. I remember I had 94 and 95 on the 2 handicaps, but Sunday, man, I was so weak I can barely walk,
Well, I know you've won that 400 a few times. For the listeners that don't know, Santa Maria has a golden shoot every year called the Golden 400 in California, where the champion of the 4 events gets a gold coin buckle. Jimmy, you got any of those gold coin buckles to show today?
Yes, I do. When we're taking out there.
Yeah, bring that. Oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, yeah. So that's a 1 ounce gold coin with 6 rubies, high overall champion. And do you know how many of those you've won, Jimmy?
What I have left, because I've sold a few, at times, stuff like that. I have 25 1 ounces left.
25 1 ounces left.
How many? Now, I remember, Jimmy, we talked about this when gold went up. Everybody was selling their gold. You're stupid not to, But how many gold coins do you think you've got rid of over the years?
Oh, well, between the gold and the silver 1 ounce coins and stuff like that, there was a friend of mine, Charlie LeBrock. His dad worked at a gold mart in Ojai. I took him in boxes 150 buckles. I had silver coins, gold coins, small ones, 10th ounce, quarter ounce. I had no room in my safe. Back when gold was pretty good. So and then again, I've acquired quite a few again. So this is what I got left. I got 25 1 ounces. I got 20 half ounces and a bunch of 10th ounce coins left.
Now, do you have any of the buckles from Atascadero from the Mudslide 400s?
Yeah, that's what these two are right here.
Okay. See, Jimmy, so I went to that shoot one.
I remember.
Yeah, I came in with Petey Martin and Jerry Barr, and I shot with the was it Don and Donnie Curtin?
Curtin Jr.
Yeah. Great guys. They let me. They were like, "What post you want?" I was like, "I'll take whatever." I shot post 2, and I ended up winning the 400 there and won that. And that was and I still have that buckle with the coin. Then I won the Vernal. What was it? The Vernal 500 that year. It was a money clip, and those are the only 2 that I really kept. The rest of the stuff, I took all the coins out and put silver coins in the buckle.
Yeah.
But I did the same thing. I had I think I took a guy, it was 82 of them or something. And he looked at me and he goes, "Did you inherit these?" And I said, yeah, for winning. And he goes, "What?" And I told him, and he's like, yeah, and he paid me good. Gold went, I think it was like 1,500 or whatever that time, I wish I'd have them now, but as we all do. So, but you won a ton of gold in California. I know.
Over the years. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody used to, and then even when we shot in Vegas at Carmichael's old club.
Michael's. Yep. I won his final shoot. The 500. I won that, and I won the one before that. I won 3 or 4 of those gold coins out of Vegas.
Well, you were always winning, and one thing I knew growing up with you, Jimmy, because I'm from California. I got to watch you shoot when I was coming up, and you were always going to the shoots that had gold, money, silver. I always considered you a money shooter, and you were always in the hunt. There wasn't a day that you weren't in the hunt back then. And to be honest with you, you had those health problems, and that slowed down shooting a little bit a few years ago. But just last week you were at the Golden West Grand, and I seen you break a 98 out of 100 in the handicap. You ran the first 85 out, or what was it, 87 out, Jimmy?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so ran the first 87 out, come out with a 98 in Livermore, and it was windy that day. And I'm like, this guy just don't quit. It doesn't matter where he's at, how long he's been shooting, how old he gets. He's always going to be able to put scores on the board. And you've just always been very determined to win.
Now, Jimmy, real quick on that. So I was watching the scores and I seen that pop up, and I called Zach and said, "Hey, you might need to get some lessons from Jimmy."
I think he's always good for content.
Hey, I'm trying to help my host here. He was struggling with the handicap. I said, go talk to Jimmy. I said, because you're not getting any help from anybody else. So.
Yeah. No, but Zach did okay.
I know.
He didn't get the high roll though, darn it.
No, I wanted it. I tied, lost the shoot off with 39-39, and Chayton Vega went 39-40. So that 39 hurt me. I should have punched those out, but it happens. I was happy with the shoot. I won AAA all around, AAA overall. But Jimmy, I mean, like I said, that was the highlight for me that week because you'd said it's been a while since you popped a handicap.
Yep.
And when you came off the line, I could see you grinning ear to ear, and I'm like, oh shit, Jimmy had a big one.
Yeah. I think that's my best score in about 5 years, 6 years.
Well, you also had liver cancer too, didn't you?
Yes, 3 years after 2011. In 14, they came back, and then I had to go through chemo. That's what I got neuropathy in my feet and my fingers, and that's hindered the shooting a little bit.
And your eyes just got fixed, like you said. You went in for that surgery and got those cleaned up, and you think that's helping at this point? I mean, it looks like it is, at least.
In a way, they just going independent or equal dominance. If I look over the gun with my right eye, and I've had to change my style, I've had to come down in the back of the house, and that's been the hard part, is relearning how to shoot. I've never seen the top of the gun. So now that being said, once my right eye looks out over the gun, my vision separates because of the alignment of my eyes. Whereas before, the stigmatism corrected that. Now they've corrected the stigmatism. Now they've come back. They're not blending together and stuff like that, become independent. So I got my right eye will shoot low right of where my left eye looks. So if I go off my left eye, I'm shooting low right of everything. Trying, it's like.
Now, have you ever thought of shooting just one eye?
No. Well,
I mean,
I've thought about no.
We'll make you a pirate and let you shoot and see.
No, I'll give you an example. It was years ago, Bakersfield, when they opened the new club. You get that starry twitch in your eye.
Yeah.
You have like a nervous twitch and stuff like that, like a little starlight. I'm shooting the handicap. I'll close my left eye, and the stars stuff's in my right eye. Okay, I close my left eye, just coming up. I can't see the gun. I can't see nothing. Okay, so I'm going off my left eye. Yeah, I run the first 75.
Really?
I know I go off my left eye. I'm just looking underneath the gun, just putting it up. Muscle memory and stuff.
That's what I was just going to say to our listeners. Jimmy shot a lot, so that muscle memory kicks in, and you make it work.
It's automatic. Make it work. And just when you see that target, muscle memory is done. You're already broken when you see it leave the house. It's broke.
So you said now you're in the bottom, the bottom of the house. You're going from the base up and tracking it like me and Ricky now in your career, or are you seeing it and jumping over the top, or what are you doing now?
Just about. I got a hold, right at below the front edge of that house. So I see that front edge all the time over my gun.
And then once you got there, what are you trying to do from there?
My eyes go to the target. That's it. I don't see the gun anymore.
It's just eyes on the bird and make a move and shoot.
Pull the trigger, yeah. Because I don't see lead. I don't see anything. There it is. I've already read it out of the house. And I'm pulling the trigger as I'm getting there, I guess.
So a long time ago, you told me, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but you said, Zach, I want to see the target as soon as he humanly leaves the house. I want to catch direction, and then it's going to start to clear up. And then you said, where it starts to clear up might be where I put my gun, or, in that area. Is it still what you're trying to do? See it as soon as possible, as soon as it leaves, and get direction?
A little bit, yeah. And it's just like coming down that low in the house for me. I got to get my eyes off the gun a little bit more to slow that target down coming out of the house a little bit. I pick it up more with my peripheral, like driving the car. You see your hood of your car, but you're not looking at it. You're looking out a little bit. Looking out a little bit.
So you're not looking as tight and trying to catch it on the flash. You're looking a little bit higher above the gun, peripherally catching it, and then focusing into it as it's becoming clear.
I don't think I get time to focus on it. It's already shot. It's already
It's
broke.
shot.
It's
direction point shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you
Well,
shoot very fast. I mean,
Mhm.
it's as fast as anyone in the country still in handicap.
there's been shoot times in Vernal. Well, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, Ricky. We're shooting with Timmy Reed.
Yeah.
And we're clicking along, and Vince Bianco and Smitty. We had another guy. I vortex 2 different singles targets, and Timmy just stops the whole squad. He goes, I quit. I mean, it couldn't have been 7 yards out of the house, and they just made a tornado out of that black cloud,
Yeah.
Just-
That's the targets that Sean says. You can really blackball a
Black-
target.
yeah, up there and stuff like that.
You
What's
won
the
the
high-
smoke ball competition.
Yeah, it's just the high altitude. The higher altitude helps,
For
So-
sure. So Jimmy, one thing I know, you're obviously a great competitor, but you've been also known as one of the nicest guys in trap shooting. Everybody loves you, and I think you're very humble about the way you win. I mean, you've won hundreds of gold coin buckles. You've broken all these hundreds from the 27. But I remember, specifically when you broke your 100th 100 in doubles, and it was because it was the first time I broke back-to-back hundreds and doubles. I broke 100 on Saturday, broke 100 on Sunday. You also broke 100 on Saturday, broke 100 on Sunday. But for me, it was like my 6th one, and for you, it was your 100th one. And you came up to me, and you're like, you know what, Zach? I don't even want the trophy. I just got my 100th 100 doubles. I don't even care. And most people would have, wanted to shoot off for that. But as a young guy coming up, I was like, man, that guy is really enjoying the aspect of his accolades internally versus, the trophies and the things that you get on the side.
Side, yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Thanks, Zach.
It was something that I always remembered, and it wasn't even something that you probably thought much about at the time, but you're like, yeah, I don't need another buckle, and for me at the time, I didn't have any buckles. So it was like, I really wanted that buckle. I'm like, man, I need that.
So what you're saying, Zach, is your first buckle you ever won was given to you. You didn't win it. I mean, just saying.
That wasn't my first, but for that $100.
But that's part of the deal, and I'll agree with Zach on this, Jimmy. And I've known you for a long time, since I started coming out to Vegas, since I think I was probably 20, or actually, I think the first time I met you was actually at the Spring Grand in Phoenix, probably.
The old gun club.
The old gun club in Phoenix. I was young and stuff, but because Frank, I went a lot of places with Frank, and then with Leo too, and Frank, and everybody always, Jimmy would he'd laugh and just smile on his face. And that's part of this game. And it's the main part for me, is the family part, is being around. Cause I'm the same way with you, Jimmy. I know when we first started, you were choked up talking about your mom and dad and everything, and your brother. And I understand. I mean, I'm thankful my dad's still around, but, growing up, that's who took me to the shoots. And then, my oldest son, when he was a baby, traveled to the shoots with me, and he never shot a lot, but Trey was always there and run around and always trying to keep him out of trouble, from doing something stupid. It's a family atmosphere, and that's what's always drawn me to come back, along with winning the trophies and the money and the buckles.
All that stuff, right.
But the main thing is everybody's a family, and it's a small niche group in the shooting sports, because Jimmy also shoots competitive sporting clays, as I do, and it's a small world. I mean, I cross over and shoot. Everybody knows what's going on, and everybody knows everybody. And that's the cool thing I've always thought of is, I can go to a shoot, whether it be trap, skeet, or sporting, and just sit down and have a conversation with anybody. A lot of other sports, you can't do that,
Nice.
like you can at trap. I mean, it is. It's a family event. Everybody shoots, kids shoot, and going to these shoots, enjoying stuff, the atmosphere. Now, speaking of that, are you going to the Western Grand next week?
Yes.
So Vernal, that's a great place. We have Missing Outs or Annie Oakley's, and just a good time,
Good time.
That's kind of the main thing is going to these places,
Well, you remember probably years ago when Vinny brought us our Hawaiian outfits?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you should. Zach, were you there with that outfit?
I was there, but I didn't get an outfit.
It was funny to see Smitty.
No, I
Really,
remember
yeah.
Smitty wearing that Hawaiian shirt and Jimmy wearing the Hawaiian shirt and Hawaiian night there, and they had the Beach Boys. Well, they didn't have the Beach Boys. They had like the fake Beach Boys come and play at the stage, but it was incredible. Very fun time. Talking about that, Jimmy, you've seen the evolution of trap shooting from when you started to now. Maybe what were some of your favorite places that you went and shot back in the day, or some things that you remember that are different now that they were then?
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of ATA shoots there in Palmdale and stuff like Fin and Feather. When we were shooting, mainly we just shot practice. We could go down on Sunday. It cost my dad $1 a person for all day. We could shoot many targets as we want. There was my mom and dad. I had 2 brothers at that time, so we could shoot 500 shells down there, 500 targets for the family, and it would cost my dad $5. But we go to Vegas twice a year, February and September, for the money shoots and stuff like that, and the Golden West Grand, and that was the major shoots. When in '72, I'm at our state shoot, I shot decent, and then the people running the state called my mom and dad and said, "Hey, Jimmy can go to the Grand and shoot on the California state team, the state team race." Well, that was like, what's that about? So we ended up finding about that. So we ended up going. We drove back, my mom and dad. California won it that year.
Hell yeah!
Had Benios, myself, another junior, because there were 2 juniors on there. Eldon Gates. I don't know if anybody, he was a big game hunter way back when.
Really?
Coming. Yeah. No, let's see. Yeah, he was on it. And Bob Menley was another guy. Well, California, the last year at the Grand, tied for that race. We had to go out and shoot off. And I was on that team too. We all went 25 in that shoot off against, I think Ohio had 124.
Yeah, Ohio's always got a really good team,
stuff like that. So, my first year at the Grand, I was on that state team, and my last year in Vidalia, I was on that state team.
Did you win it the last year also?
Yes.
So
in
you
the shoot off, we had to go
guys
shoot
did.
off. Yeah. Yep. And so other than that, and then in 1980, I went to my first Grand after getting married and stuff like that. My wife was pregnant with our son, and we went to Kansas City to see her family on the way, and then went to the Grand. And I've been going every year up until 2015. I had missed it because that's when I had liver cancer.
Yes.
And doc said no. I went after my colon cancer. That was, Smitty had to drive, because there was a lot of times I had to really pull off the side of the road, because they took my large intestine and colon out. So I was real close to having a colostomy. So I had little control.
Yeah. Not a lot of time for the burritos to process.
Pull over. There was a lot of cornfields on the way back to the hotel.
Jesus.
There's some good corn being grown on the way. Oh, J-Bo.
So for young people, Jimmy, I mean, what's some advice that you would give young people or people that are getting into the game, getting more serious? I mean, something that's been with you your whole life that's helped you get to this point.
I think maybe you guys can probably relate to that too. While you're shooting and stuff like that, I'm always kind of like been outside my body, sensing movement, feeling, no emotion, just reaction, how I'm reacting, how I'm breaking the targets on a consistent basis to adjust the speed of the gun or where I'm looking, how I'm looking, whatever, based on how I'm breaking that target. If I'm just chipping and hacking, where am I chipping and hack on? The backside, front side, to where you can adjust a little bit and bring that pattern in around more on that target. I mean,
so if I'm hearing you correctly, being very aware of your surroundings, the wind conditions, the where you're breaking the clay, where you're holding the gun, and where your eyes are in relationship to that gun, and then just figuring that out over time and being quicker at knowing, okay, I'm off here, right? Because the
Right.
thing that I've noticed about you, Jimmy, is you'll chip one, and then on the next shot, you'll go smoke ball and run the 100. So you'll figure it out within one shot. I mean, it's not going to take you 5 or 6 shots to know how off you are. I mean, you're right back in it.
I'm just over the years and stuff, because I stand pretty straight up. And thing that I've had to work on is my balance. Not to get too far forward, because I'm swinging. I got that gun so high on my shoulder and stuff like that. I'm swinging from the balls of my feet all the way up as a unit, to where if I get too far forward, now I'm left-handed again, because I'm usually right hand, cheek, and shoulder as a unit, and the left hand just comes along for the ride, basically.
So left hands for stabilization, and you're driving from the right hand, the cheek, the shoulder, the balls of the feet. And like you said, if you get too far forward, you start front handing it.
Correct. Yeah.
Which you don't want to do.
And I would agree with that. I think all 3 of us shoot that way. I mean, we all are driving the gun from the back hand. And I think people get in the bad habit of using that front hand, especially when they're not getting the gun to the target quick enough. They want to compensate with that front hand and push that front hand, and it really throws that gun out of line. Would you agree, Jimmy?
Yes, and that's what you're kind of sensing or analyzing, that feeling right then and there. Why did I do that? And basically, it's like you're playing catch up. The target beat you, so you rerun. Okay, where do I have to see that target? We'll pick it up with where it's at and adjust. That's what I'm doing. I'm
being aware. Being aware of your surroundings, like Zach said. He hit the nail on the head there. That's a lot of people don't do that. They're just out there kind of going through the motions. And you want to do that. You want to be aware of what's going on, the wind. How am I breaking that? Okay, and if you're smoking the target, that's where it's like just going through the motions. That way.
Just keep
but don't. When you start thinking too much, that's when shooters kind of.
That's when you get in trouble.
That's right. They overanalyze.
It's like, to go way back when I broke the back-to-back hundreds on the 27 at the state shoot. Like 7 years earlier, I was shooting with Pillas when he did it.
Okay.
And it's like, how in the H can somebody do that? So then that day I break the first 100, and it's like, working at it. Okay. So you go back out and you break the next 25, the next 25, the next 25, you break the next 20. And I call that little idiot start jumping on your shoulder going, hey, guess what? It's like, go away. The whole day is going to go in the toilet if you keep jumping around up there, And that's all you can do to get through that. There's been times that San Diego when they had all the jackpots and stuff like that. I broke their first 100 for the 27, but they had $11,000 on the line, perfect 50s and jackpots,
Oh.
And there's been times, because it's a 3-hour drive down there, but I was going down there every month and shoot 300 handicaps and stuff. But,
trying to get their money.
Try and get their money, But it's like a couple of the perfect 50s and stuff. I remember I'm out of high school 20 years, whatever. Here I am singing my high school alma mater to get through a 50. So I should keep my mind on what I'm doing. But you got to do that sometimes, Just
now, how many back-to-back hundreds have you broke like that? Is that just one?
In one day, yes.
Yeah. Oh, you
did
it. You did. Oh, in one day. Okay.
In one day.
They had 200 handicap at Kingsburg. They used to throw 200 handicap day, and Pillas ran it and Jimmy ran it. And I think they're the only 2 that have ever run it.
Okay. Because I know you remember in Vegas at Carmichael's old club, the year I broke back-to-back hundreds, but it was Thursday and then Friday. It was my second and my third 100. It was in 1999. And then Larry Bumstead on the squad, he broke 98, back-to-back each. And he goes, if I can't shoot any better than this, I'm going home. And I go, oh, yeah, I'd go home with 98s too, laughing. Well, then on Sunday, they shoot at Vegas. Remember, we shot the $100 Hunter Bird handicap.
Right.
And then we shot the championship handicap. And we go out, and I break 98, and Bumstead breaks 100. And I'm like, damn it. I think it was McCarthy broke 100. And then the second 100 broke 99, and Bumstead broke another 100.
That's
That's something I go, yeah, that short little guy broke off 200. He goes, what? And I mean, literally, it was my first time witnessing it, but there was 500s that week broke, and 4 of them were on our squad.
Wow.
So, yeah, but Carmichael told me, he goes, you're the first one to ever break back-to-back hundreds here in Vegas. And I was like, did we get anything more for that?
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's where I broke my first 100. I think it was. Yeah.
Was it
in
really?
Vegas. In 82.
82.
Dang.
Yeah. And Ricky, how old were you in 82?
I was 7, Zach.
He was blowing up butter for the 27. You were just playing with mud pies.
I was.
But I mean, you got memories and stuff like that. Well, I remember after breaking that first 100 for the 27 like that,
Yep.
I was on my knees when the squad finished. It was just like, what the heck?
It does. It sucks it out of you completely, Jimmy. And
yeah,
and to kind
Where
of
was yours, Zach?
my first one was at Vernal.
Vernal. That's what I thought, because I was there.
Yeah, Vernal.
Yeah,
how about
and then the
how
next
about-
week and then the next week at California.
Martinez?
Well, I did that one too.
Yeah, but he didn't play the perfect.
Yeah, I know many of that.
We already talked about that.
It was still good, but it wasn't as good. But just not focus on me, to go back to Jimmy. What I wanted to spend a second on is, you talked about that little guy jumping around on your shoulder. I've had that happen 100 times. I know Rick's probably had it, but for you, Jimmy, what do you think is the best way to control that when that happens? Because, everybody inevitably is going to go into the last 5 shots
Get through
straight
there.
or the last 25 straight. What are you doing to help get through that period of time mentally?
I think the first thing, you got to get there a couple times and miss, get to that point and lose a target or so, where you don't have that 100. So now you're aware of that feeling for on the next one, I mean, I remember Miramar was breaking their 100 and doubles down there. My last 5, I'm shaking so bad. But I try and you got the adrenaline flowing so much that you don't realize how much you're holding on to that gun, or, pushing that gun or whatever, to where I try and go more relaxed, a lighter feel, more ballet style, let's say, the more fluid, just a little softer, goofy feeling, stuff like that, because the adrenaline's pumping you so much. You got to relieve that somehow, to where get it back to just the calmness and stuff like that, to where.
So instead of going tighter with it, you potentially try to loosen up a little bit, because your adrenaline's pumping so hard. You're already pushing harder naturally. So you're kind of recognizing that. And then mentally, I mean, I know you said you sung your alma mater, but is there other mental things that you're playing tricks with yourself to talk yourself down when you're shooting for 10 grand or a gold coin or for, a championship?
I want to say I'm more or less trying to stay in that subconscious state, because if you bring it to the surface, to the conscious deal, now you're thinking, your mind's working. You got to keep it out. You don't think of anything. Just more of a feeling, I think, is what helps me to get through that. Keep that smoothness, the calmness, and stuff like that.
So you're not trying to think about the next 1 ounce gold coin buckle. You're trying to think about the same subconscious things you've been doing, not changing anything. Okay. And then that guy's standing there and he's yelling, and the more he's yelling, you're more focusing on the process, correct?
Right. And so it's like, I shot with 4 or 5 guys for like 8 years, every weekend and stuff like that. We all had excuses, okay? And back then we didn't have the phono pulls, it was a hand pull. And what was the biggest gripe? Slow pulls. Well, why is there slow pull? Because you anticipate you're going to say pull and your eyes are moving, guns moving. Mm-hmm. No target. Slow pull. So I always learned just to say, I always just went and waited for the target and shot it. And you can do that with a person out there giving them some lessons or whatever. Don't have them say anything. Just do their gun mount. All they have is their eyes. Once you start knowing that you're going to call pull or whatever, guess what? The anticipation comes in. Their eyes are moving. They're on the move. And the mics have kind of created a little bit of a bad habit because they're so quick, I think. For me,
well, Jimmy, the target's supposed to be there. And that's mentally, that's subconscious. It's like, I know when I call pull, it's supposed to come. So that, because I remember like you, handfuls, I remember shooting like Missouri. You'd get on, you'd be like, oh, got that puller. He's a little slow.
Well,
Okay. Well, pull. Oh, there
you
it
wait
goes.
for the target.
Yeah.
If
That was
you're
it,
waiting
you know?
for the target and you're not anticipating, you're going to do a lot better than if you're trying to move
Oh.
up the call. And I agree with you, Jimmy. I mean, I think because the pat traps are so tight and because the canterburies are so tight, I see so many people, the gun's already creeping off the line before they even get the target in the air.
Yep.
They're already moving left on 1. They're already moving right on 5. And what happens is you're moving in a direction where the target might not be.
Correct.
And I have always wanted to take my eyes and have the eyes direct the gun. And I know you've always said that to me. You've said, Zach, you know, you see it and then you go get it. Once you lock onto it, the body's going to follow through. But you have to know what you're seeing first.
Yeah. I wish they on the Canterbury. I wish they put more of a little bit of delay. More. Well, look at Robert Height. Okay, he's in that funny car. He's looking at a Christmas tree. Okay, his reaction time is what? 0.4 of a second.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that microphone's a lot quicker than that. Go back to the old days when the puller had to hear you, react, push the button, and you seen that. There's almost 0.75 of a second or more. You know, to where it gives you the brain more time to commit or finish a commitment than the pull. There's the target. Now shoot it. Now it's pull and trigger almost the same time.
Simultaneously.
You know.
It's
And
almost
I think if you're doing it right, it creates better scores now, but it can also create more bad habits.
Habits. You know?
So it's a 50-50 deal. But Rick, Jimmy, is there anything else that we could talk with Jimmy for 3 hours. I mean,
we'll have to have Jimmy on again, you know, and talk some more. But
there was a gal that used to do the old shotgun with little magazine in California, stuff like that. This is from 84. There was 1,010 shooters at the California ATA shoot and 1,030 at the California PITA state shoot. Ringberg.
Uh-oh.
Hang on. I lost you. There.
Okay.
My battery's going down. So, but, you know, now we're barely getting 200 shooters at California state shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's sad. That's why we're here, is we're trying to, you know, get people more excited about trap shooting and get them out there and traveling to their state shoots and stuff. And I think, you know, you definitely seen the heyday of it, and hearing those stories is inspirational. But you know, there's still a lot of good shoots out there, and there's still a lot of good things to do. So
that's right. Next week, Vernal, Western Grand,
2 weeks, but yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
Week and a half. I'll be leaving next week to head out. Jimmy and I will be there to represent for the ATL. Like Zach, he's got to go somewhere else.
That's okay. Jimmy, is there anyone you'd like to thank, or any sponsors or anything while we're getting out of here?
Oh, just, I don't know, just the people in general that go to the trap shoots and stuff like that. You know, that's what makes the shoots.
All your buddies.
People stuff like all the buddies and stuff, and the camaraderie, and like my buddy Smitty. You guys know Steve. Smitty, you know, he's been on post 2 since 1995. You know, every shoot we go to, there he is and stuff.
He's your shooting partner, and we've talked about that before. But having a shooting partner really makes it fun to go to shoots, and you know, find your buddy, drag him to the shoots, make him go and shoot with them, and I think that keeps people together for sure. So we want to thank you, Jimmy. We also want to thank our sponsors, Remington for sponsoring the show, Wenig Stockworks, Shot Tracker, the one and only RM Shooting Clinics, and myself, Zach Nannini at Northwestern Mutual, always looking to help people with their finances if they're open to it. So I really had fun with you today, Jimmy. You know so much. I know the shooters are going to, and the listeners are going to love this episode and love what you got to say. And we'd love to have you on again sometime when you have time for it. So good luck this shooting season, and we appreciate you.
All right, Zach, I appreciate it. Anytime, because I'm retired and all I do is shoot. So
thanks, Jimmy. Good to see you, J-Bone. See you in a couple weeks.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Trap Talk.